Coming up, a murder mystery set in Canada's historical archive.
A literary page-turner about a podcast.
Plus, our distraction of the week. I'm Mel.
I'm Dave. This is the Library of Lost Time. Hello. We are just back from Scotland, where we had a wonderful time.
We went to Shetland, you guys.
We did. We returned with a suitcase full of books and a belly full of scones and a slight head cold, which you can probably hear right now. We're going to talk a little bit more about Scotland next week, and whenever any small door opens to talk about Scotland.
So many Scotland stories to share.
But for now, we're going to do the show, and thanks for your patience.
With our very froggy voices.
Yeah.
This week, I'm excited to read Speak for the Dead by Amy Tector. It's a murder mystery set in Canada's Dominion Archives. That's the division of the archive related to Canadian history.
Okay.
Appropriately, the story opens on a stormy day in Ottawa. The coroner, Dr. Kate Spencer, is called in to examine a dead body found inside a vault at the archive. The police pressure her to rule it a suicide, but she's not so sure. Her investigation takes her into a world of military secrets and Indigenous protests, while she's battling her own grief and her desire to drink it away. This is a follow-up to the book, The Foulest Things. But, according to Amy Tector, the author, you do not need to read them in order. In her newsletter, she said, weirdly, none of the characters from book 1 are in book 2. But don't worry, eventually all the characters will reunite in one book and it will be amazing. Her newsletter is a delight, by the way. I'll put a link to it in show notes. There are a few other things I need to mention about Amy.
Okay.
First, she's been an archivist for more than 20 years. She currently works at Canada's National Archive.
Like the character in her book.
Exactly. In the past, she also worked in The Hague as an archivist for the United Nations International Criminal Tribunal for War Crimes in the former Yugoslavia.
So she's qualified to write a crime novel.
She is. Second, she grew up in the eastern townships of Quebec. For people who are fans of Louise Penny, that should be ringing some bells. That's where the Inspector Gamache books are set, in the fictional town of Three Pines.
Right.
Amy wrote the first essay in that essay project, Notes from Three Pines, that I was part of recently. Third, she has a meet cute. She met her husband in the Canadian Archive. And I'm just going to read her words describing it because they're so good. A couple of weeks into landing the job, I was photocopying contact cards of the Yukon Gold Rush, and a tall, bespectacled nerd in a sweater vest came along and started flirting. I married him 5 years later. I'm thrilled to announce that Amy will be joining us for our session at the Newburyport Literary Festival at the end of April. I'll put all relevant info in show notes.
Yeah, we're doing that online, so everyone's going to get a chance to see that.
Yeah, and we're going to talk to her about what it's like to be an archivist and about her new book, Speak for the Dead, which is out now.
Rebecca Makkai is the author of The Great Believers. That was a 2018 novel about the AIDS epidemic. That book was a finalist for the Pulitzer and the National Book Award and won a whole bunch of other stuff. If that book wore all of its awards, it would look like a Prussian general. Makkai's next book just came out. It is in part a murder mystery. It's called I Have Some Questions for You. The lead is a woman, Bodie Kane. She's a podcaster and a film professor. She returns to the boarding school where she grew up. It was a traumatic and challenging time for her back then. But maybe the worst of it was the murder of her former roommate in the spring of their senior year. She has returned to the school to teach a couple of courses for 2 weeks. And then, of course, one of her students decides to do a podcast about that murder, and we're off to the races.
So we've got podcast, dark academia, and an award-winning author.
Yeah.
This sounds amazing.
Yeah. Reviews say this book combines a whodunit, a coming-of-age novel, and a critique of our social media age. NPR called it almost impossible to put down. It's I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca Makkai. And now our distraction of the week.
I recently learned about a literary award that's making me very happy. It's called the Gotham Book Prize, and it honors the best books about New York City.
Oh.
What makes it so special is that it's awarded by a bookstore. P&T Knitwear is an independent bookshop on the Lower East Side that also features a state-of-the-art podcast recording studio that's free for anyone in the community to use.
Oh, that's cool.
And it gets even better. During the early days of the pandemic, the store's founders created the Gotham Book Prize to award $50,000 to a writer.
That's awesome.
They wanted to encourage writers and also to recognize the creative culture that makes New York City so badass.
Yeah.
One of the founders of the prize is Bradley Tusk. He said that to him, there are almost two versions of New York. The one for the people who live there, and the one the rest of the world experiences through books, movies, TV shows, songs, art, podcasts. Here's a quote from him. As long as New York maintains its mystique through the arts, it will always attract the best and brightest from across the globe, and our city would always survive. Both fiction and nonfiction are considered for the prize so long as they feature New York as a setting and were published within the calendar year. The 2023 winner will be awarded this spring at an event at the store, which I love.
Yeah.
The 11 finalists look so good and include a few books that I already had on my TBR. So I'm just going to highlight a few.
Okay.
There's the novel Trust by Hernan Diaz. I talked about that on a previous episode of the Library of Lost Time.
Right.
That's the story of a high-flying Wall Street tycoon and his wife leading up to the stock market crash of 1929. There's also Olga Dies Dreaming by Xochitl Gonzalez. That's a novel about a wedding planner who can't find love.
With a strong sense of Puerto Rican diaspora in it.
You know, Ron Charles from the Washington Post, who is my favorite book journalist, absolutely loved it.
He wasn't alone. I researched this book recently, and a ton of people love this book.
Yes. Also on my TBR.
Yeah.
And finally, An Honest Living by Dwyer Murphy. That one is a noir mystery written by the editor-in-chief of Crime Reads, which is a great website about crime reads. If those three titles are any indication of the quality of the finalists, I'm going to be adding all of these books to my TBR. And here's a really fun thing. If you also want to be a completist, you can buy all of the finalists from P&T Knitwear. And when you buy all 11 books from them, they give you a $25 gift card for the store.
Oh, that's nice.
P&T Knitwear sounds like a really great neighborhood bookstore.
Except for the name. Sounds like a sweater place.
Okay. I'm glad you said that because let me tell you about the name.
Okay.
The store's founder, Bradley Tusk, named the shop P&T Knitwear in honor of a 1950s garment shop run by his grandfather, Hyman Tusk. He emigrated to New York City after surviving the Holocaust and started a sweater store with a friend he met in a refugee camp in Germany. That shop was called P&T Knitwear.
I take back what I said.
It's a great name for a bookshop. Yeah. Something else that's good to know about this shop, besides being a hub for the community, the store provides full benefits for free to every employee, whether they're full-time or hourly. Yes, P&T Knitwear. That's the Gotham Book Prize and P&T Knitwear and a whole bunch of books for your TBR. Links for all of that will be in the show notes, along with the other books we discussed today. Visit strongsenseofplace.com/library to get all of it.
Thanks for joining us in the Library of Lost Time. Remember to visit your local library and your independent bookstore to lose some time yourself.
Stay curious. We'll talk to you soon.
Can you actually change your personality if you want to? How does peer pressure work, and why is it so powerful? Should you ever really trust your gut when you make a big decision? These are just a few of the topics we've recently covered on my podcast, Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and each episode of Something You Should Know covers multiple topics that are likely relevant to you. You'll discover things you can use in your life today, right now, like how to have a great conversation, how to be more courageous, the anatomy of the perfect apology, and much, much more. To date, there are over 1,000 episodes of Something You Should Know, and we've gotten over 4,000 mostly 5-star reviews. I invite you to check out Something You Should Know. Look for the bright yellow light bulb on the blue background. Something You Should Know, wherever you listen to podcasts.